When a terrified little girl was found on a porch in the jaws of a lion, the whole town demanded answers. Behind the scenes, a shuttered wildlife park hid a chilling secret far worse than anyone imagined. But one unexpected act of pure instinct turned a predator into a protector and exposed a darkness no one dared to see. Stay with me to find out how a silent guardian defied the odds and why justice against all fears finally prevailed. It was the kind of Saturday morning that felt wrapped in cotton, quiet, unhurried, and drenched in pale sunlight. The suburban neighborhood just south of Minneapolis dozed beneath a soft breeze, the kind that tousled tree branches and brought the faint scent of cut grass through open windows. Inside his modest brick home, Zach Harper, 38, moved with the slow rhythm of someone who'd finally learned to appreciate silence. After 15 years of fighting fires, he had earned the quiet. Now, retired and healing from injuries both seen and unseen, mornings meant black coffee, flannel slippers, and the crackle of the local AM station in the background. Across the street, on a white-painted porch shaded by a sycamore tree, little Lila Anders sat cross-legged, her blonde curls bouncing as she guided a plastic unicorn across the floorboards. Her parents had driven to St. Paul for errands, leaving her under the watchful eye of her grandmother, though the woman had just stepped inside for a moment to answer a call. That's when the air changed. It was barely noticeable at first, like a thread pulling tight. The birds fell silent. The breeze dropped. Zach's hand paused midway to his mug, and then it came. Not a scream, not a shout, a roar, deep, primal, alien to a place like this. Zach's heart slammed once, hard. The mug shattered on the tile floor as he bolted toward the door. The front yard blurred beneath his feet, and when he reached the top step of his porch, time fractured into a still frame of something impossible. A lion, massive, dust-colored, muscles rippling beneath the sunlit fur. It stood just feet away, its breath heavy, its eyes human in their stillness. And in its jaws, Lila. Her tiny body hung limp between its teeth, arms curled inward like a sleeping child. But there was no blood, no torn fabric, just her, silent, still, impossibly whole. Zach froze. Years of instinct screamed at him to move, to shout, to do something. But something deeper told him the opposite. Don't startle it, don't scream, don't even blink too hard. The lion's eyes locked onto his. Seconds ticked. 1, 2, 10. And then, without warning, it bent its massive head, laid the girl gently down on the wooden planks, and turned. A rustle of leaves, a blur of motion, and it was gone. Zach dropped to his knees, hands trembling as he touched the girl's face. Her eyes fluttered open. She was crying, not screaming, just soft, confused tears. No wounds, no blood, just a couple of shallow scratches, and the blank, distant stare of a child who's seen something the world says shouldn't exist. Within minutes, sirens wailed in the distance. EMTs, squad cars, animal control. Neighbors gathered, reporters followed. Questions flooded in, louder, more chaotic than the roar itself. But Lila said nothing. To every adult who asked, every nurse, every officer, she repeated just one sentence. He knew I was crying. And nobody knew what that meant. Not yet. The days that followed felt heavier with each passing hour. Sirens had faded. Cameras had moved on. But the questions, they stuck to the air like thick smoke. Zach Harper couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Not just the presence of the lion. Not just the miracle of Lila surviving. Something else. Something he couldn't see, but could feel crawling just beneath the surface. Late one night, while the neighborhood finally slept, Zach sat alone in front of his old laptop, pulling footage from the security cameras he had installed months earlier, an old habit from his days on the force. Most of the clips showed nothing out of the ordinary: swaying trees, delivery trucks, neighborhood kids on bicycles. But then, at the edge of one frame, just near the dumpsters at the end of the block, something caught his eye. A van. Faded blue paint, rusted bumper. A peeling decal on the side that he squinted to read, Bright Horizons Wildlife Park. Zach's stomach twisted. Bright Horizons had been shuttered just a month earlier, following public outrage over allegations of mistreatment. News reports had shown images of battered cages, gaunt animals, and accusations that the park had operated far outside legal standards. And now, one of their vans was prowling his street. Without hesitation, Zach picked up the phone and called Kara McPherson, a wildlife enforcement officer, ex-military, and known for her stubborn refusal to be rattled. Zach had worked with her once before. He trusted her judgment, and more importantly, he knew she could move fast when something felt wrong. Kara listened in silence as Zach explained. At first, she was skeptical. Bright Horizons had been closed, she reminded him. Their animals relocated, their assets seized. But Zach's urgency was contagious. An hour later, they were bumping down an overgrown dirt road toward the abandoned facility. The gates hung loose from broken chains. Weeds grew wild through the gravel lot. The main building loomed ahead, its windows smashed, its signage stripped. Silence pressed in from all sides, thick and absolute. Zach and Kara moved carefully through the grounds, flashlights slicing through the gloom. What they found wasn't chaos. It wasn't vandalism. It was something colder, something methodical. Empty cages, doors bent outward, as if forced from the inside. Tracks in the dust, huge clawed imprints, and scattered debris, tattered clothing. A child's stuffed rabbit lying in the mud, one ear torn. And then they found it. At the far end of the property, behind a collapsed chain-link fence, nestled in the ruins of what once might have been an exhibit space, there was a hidden enclosure. Inside, scraps of old bedding, crates, rusted chains anchored to the walls, a hand-drawn map pinned to the wall with a nail, its edges curling. Zach leaned closer, heart hammering in his chest. The map showed their neighborhood, their street. Tiny red circles marked specific houses. One of them, Lila's. Kara went pale, her knuckles whitening around the flashlight. They weren't training animals for entertainment, she whispered. They were using them for something else, something worse. The weight of it hit Zach like a punch. The lion hadn't been the danger that day. The lion had been running, escaping. And Lila, she had almost been caught in something far darker. They weren't looking at an accident. They were looking at a plan. And Lila was their only clue to what came next. The evening air was heavy, thick with a storm that hadn't yet come. Inside the Anders home, Zach Harper sat quietly beside Lila, who curled up under a blanket, her small hands clutching the edges tight. Across from her, Kara McPherson knelt to meet her gaze, voice low and careful. "Lila," Kara said gently, "do you remember what happened?" For a long moment, the little girl said nothing. Then in a broken whisper, she answered, "He saved me." Kara leaned forward slightly. "Who did?" "The lion," Lila whispered. "He pulled me out. From the cave where they kept the others." Zach's breath caught. He exchanged a look with Kara, sharp, urgent. "Others?" Kara asked, her voice barely audible. Lila's eyes welled up. Tears slid down her cheeks. "Kids," she sobbed. "He broke the cage. He knew I wasn't supposed to be there." The words cut deeper than any roar could. Guided by the fragments of Lila's memory, Zach and Kara pushed into the woods that night, finding a crumbling cabin hidden in the brush. Inside, chains, broken toys, scraps of clothing, chilling remnants of something far worse than anyone had feared. By morning, the FBI was there. It turned out Bright Horizons hadn't just housed mistreated animals. Behind the broken cages had been a darker, hidden trade. But the lion, somehow, against its training, had chosen not to obey. It had chosen to protect. The lion was never found. Some said it wandered into the woods. Others believed it was still out there, guarding in silence. For Zach and Lila, it didn't matter. They knew the truth. Months later, when the town rebuilt the playground, a new statue stood there, not of a man, but of a lion, lowering its head beside a child. No one questioned it, because sometimes heroes don't come the way we expect. Sometimes they come on four legs with a heart brave enough to hear a child's cry and answer it.